Welcome and or welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Blackwell, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some books that have badass female main characters. So this video is a collaboration created by Becky from Beckx Reads. I will have her channel linked down below along with all of the other booktubers that are participating in this collaboration. We're going to have tons of awesome recommendations for you if you love the trope of badass female main characters. I certainly do. I'm excited to share my list with you. I think I have around 9 books here that are just some recommendations, and I'm hoping that this list is a little bit unique. I kind of purposely have this kind of all over the place in genre and theme. It's kind of a darker theme, kind of fall-esque because I'm in a fall mood. So we have some darker books, some atmospheric books, and some like cooler weather books. And I also purposely included different types of badass female main characters because badassery can mean so many different things to so many different people. So I have some female main characters here that are just really internally tough. They go through it and they pull through better than most people would. And I have some like classic badassery in here as well. I do have a book in here with some badass moms, just kind of all over the board. Before we get into this video, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I'd love to have you do so. All of my social media is linked down below in the description, including my Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as the link to the Hideaway Discord that I share with my good friend Maggie. Don't forget to click the like button and comment down below and let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Also, share your recommendations in the comments down below if you have any really good recommendations for some badass female main characters. So let's just go ahead and get into this list. It's going to be all over the place, guys. I've got horror, dark romance, epic fantasy, fairy tale retelling fantasy. I literally am all over the board with this, guys. So first we're going to start with a fantasy I have talked about a few times, and that is The Sword of Kaigen by Emma Wong. This is a classic badass female main character, and she's a mom. She's a mom. And she literally has been hiding her sword under the floorboards because she's trying to do her duty as a mom, be a good wife, and basically do your womanly duty. But when war comes to the Sword of Kaigen, she's going to have to pull out her sword. She is badass. Before she was married, she was like a vigilante, and she seriously can wield a weapon. There are some amazing battle scenes in here, some amazing fight scenes, and just all around female badassery. This is also super cold weather. So the people in this story have water magic that they mostly use as ice magic, and it's set in a very cold area. This is set on like a mountainside in a country that's called Kaigen, but it's inspired by Japan. And it's like very wintry. It's blustery snow, and so it's a icy winter setting. So we're getting into the perfect time of year to read this. If you want an epic fantasy that's going to make you feel the chills but has a badass female main character, definitely check this one out. It's a standalone too, which is awesome because you don't get a lot of epic fantasy standalones, and this is an excellent one. This was actually my top favorite read of last year. Okay, let's switch gears. Let's talk about some dark romance. So I have Ivan here by Sophia Lark. This is a Russian mafia romance. Also cold weather, I think. I mean, it's set in Russia and it's freaking cold. But we have a hit woman. She is a hit woman. Seriously, classic badassery. This girl just really has some skills. She has skills when it comes to like internet, like technology. She has fighting skills. She is secret agent kind of spy kind of skills. I don't know how you say that, but basically like she can sneak around real good until she gets caught. Yeah. So maybe not that great, but she does get caught by Ivan. So she's been paid to off him. And when she tries to do so, he catches her and he holds her captive and questions her. One of my favorite romance tropes, especially for dark romance and fantasy romance, is the captor-captive trope, and this is done really well. If you like captor-captive too, I'll have that video linked down below in the description of some captor-captive romance recommendations, but this is a really good one. This is fairly fast-paced. It's pretty short. It's under 300 pages. Sophie Lark can write a really good, fun, like, don't take it too seriously mafia romance. If you haven't checked her out, do so. I think she's really a good author for, like, your first mafia romances. She's a good, like, intro. I loved Ivan. It's actually my favorite Sophie Lark book that I have read. And I do want to continue on in the series when I kind of get the mafia romance itch again. Okay, next I have A Heart of Blood and Ashes by Mila Vane. This is kind of unique because we actually have a disabled female main character in this. Our heroine is disabled. She was purposely injured by a family member, so she can't run. And a lot of things are really hard for her because her legs are injured. So she really has to suck it up a lot. She hides her pain and hides her injury so that people won't take advantage of her. It's kind of hard to explain, but I think she's probably one of the most internally strong, badass female main characters I've ever read. She is so emotionally strong, mentally tough, and just all around badass. She doesn't complain, thinks herself around situations. She will do anything, no matter how much it hurts her, to get revenge, which she wants revenge on her family. This is a true enemies to lovers fantasy romance. So if you like enemies to lovers, I've been talking about this book a lot. I really liked it. But she is seriously badass. Not in the classic way. It's not like she's a hit woman where she like knows, you know, taekwondo and stuff like that. Like, it's not like that. It's more of an internally, mentally, emotionally tough woman. And I love that. I love that example of a badass woman. I have one other, at least one other on this list that is like that too. I'll talk about that one next. That one is another historical fantasy romance, and that is Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. This is about Sorsha, and she is out to save her brothers. She and her brothers have been cursed by an evil enchantress who has married her father. And this is set in medieval Ireland, and she is so tough. She goes through it. She goes through some horrible, disgustingly awful things. Check your trigger warnings. Please check your trigger warnings for this one. There are some scenes in here that are really hard to read. She goes through it. She also is in a situation where she literally cannot talk. She cannot talk. She cannot explain herself. Like, she can't write what she wants to say either. Like, there is no way that she's allowed to kind of like get around explaining herself or talking. So she has to do this basically all her own. She has this task she has to complete, and that task is also extremely difficult because it involves weaving these really sharp nettles, these really sharp fibers into shirts for her brothers who have been turned into swans. So this is a retelling of the 6 swans, and so she has to do that task, and it's taking a very long time, and it's isolating. It's hard physically, it's hard emotionally, it's hard mentally. I don't know how she gets through this. I seriously don't know how she gets through this. Like, I'm gonna cry. Honestly, if you haven't read this, please read this book. It's a favorite of all time. It's gut-wrenching. And definitely the most emotionally and mentally tough. Like, and then we've got her too. Like, but I think this one, she's even more so. But they're, yeah, 2 amazing heroines that I love. But Sorsha holds a special place in my heart. I don't know. I don't know how she got through what she got through, you know? And like, I could talk forever about this book. I really could. I love it. I love it. And so if you haven't checked this out, please do so. It is a slower pace. It's Julie Marley, and she's known for her slow-paced historical fantasy. There is a romance in here, but it's not smutty or anything like that. But it's beautiful. It's beautifully written. It's gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching. It's a perfect autumnal and winter read either way. It's the perfect book to read in cold weather, to curl up in a blanket and read this. Please do so if you haven't. Okay, and next I have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So the heroine in here is named Alex Stern, and she also is seriously badass. And not in a fighting way either, but in some pretty cool ways. This girl can see ghosts, and she has to see and deal with a lot of things. And she's had this issue her whole life, and it's been very isolating. So she's really gone through some hard situations. She's had a really tough life, a tough childhood, a tough adolescence, and now she is in her, I think she's in her like early 20s, and she's at Yale, and she is basically supposed to watch over these secret societies and make sure that they're not disturbing the grays or ghosts too much, because she can see them, and she also has to make sure that they're not doing things they're not supposed to do. So it's kind of like a magical, witchy, like alchemy, dark academia book, but with ghosts, and then some kind of weird, timey-wimey situations too. I don't know how to describe this, but Alex Stern is badass in a lot of ways. She'll fuck you up. She will. She is really, really cool. I love her. I can't wait to read the second book in this series. But it's kind of hard to describe, but the things that she can do in here and the things that she does, and then the lengths that she will go to save her friend are pretty cool. She's badass. She is like paranormally badass. Okay, next I have a fantasy romance, and that is the Zodiac Academy. The heroines in this, they're twins, and they are both badass. This is a bully romance. They get to this, and I've talked about this a lot, so I'm not going to go into a whole synopsis for it, but they get to this school in the Fae realm, and they are being bullied because of their position. They're the long-lost princesses, and they're being bullied to crap, and they really have to take a lot of crap. And then they really become some badass female main characters. They start to give it, and they give it good. These girls are strong. They are powerful. They are super, super talented. And they have had a really hard life in the human realm. So they've learned some street skills too. They've got some street skills, some street cred, and they take that into their wing too, and they use their street skills to their advantage, and then mix that like with their magical abilities, and to do some pretty badass stuff. These girls are fun. They're awesome. They're badass. They go through it. This series is gut-wrenching. It's really hard to watch all of the things that go down in this series, but it's also addictive. This series has crack in the pages. It's so good. It's so freaking good. Next, I'm going to talk about Entombed by Blood by Mary Mystery. This is a why choose fantasy romance or paranormal romance series about vampires and lycans. So it has that underworld feel, which I love. And our main character is one of the strongest female vampires there is. So she is the daughter of the lord of this world. I don't know how to describe it, but he's like the underworld king. And he has sired some daughters, and she is one of them. And she's had to fight tooth and nail her whole life, which is a long life. And then she messes up once and is punished by him, entombed for like hundreds of years. And she comes out, and then she ends up having these mates, and she ends up doing some badassery. She is seriously the most badass vampire I've ever read. Like, she's got badass vampire powers and super strength, super speed. And then she's also just incredibly powerful. And it's really fun to watch her, use this power, and then also her skills and her political maneuverings too. It's very intricate, very interesting. This is a kind of like political, heavy why choose paranormal romance series. Kind of hard to describe, but definitely if you like Underworld, you should check it out. Next, we have one of my other favorite female character of all time, and that's Vasya. Vasya from The Bear and the Nightingale. I just finished this trilogy and I adored it. I adored it. I've read this book twice. I will probably read it again. This is one of my favorite books of all time. And it follows Vasya from childhood to adulthood. And she starts as a child and she's living in this little house in the Russian wilderness. Her mother is a princess, but not like a princess in the castle, like princess where she was one of the princesses that was married off. And this is set during medieval Russia. So this is set during the Mongolian Empire expansion, and Russia is basically like vassals to Mongolia. And so there's this war going on, or a potential war going on, but over here in this Russian wilderness, we have like another war. And that is this struggle between modern day religion and the old ways and the old religions, and these creatures who are dying, they're not being believed in. So it's very much mythological. It's got a lot of Russian folktale retellings in here too. And it's just lovely. There's a romance in the series that is really good. I loved it. And Vasya has to be so strong. She's judged. Some people, because of her ways, call her a witch. And she really can stand up to people much older than her because she has got so much mental strength. So I guess another one kind of similar to Daughter of the Forest, where we have that mental and emotional strength. But more so, I would say she just was born mentally tough. The struggles aren't the same. She's born mentally tough and judged, and she has to find ways around that. It's more of a mental and magical toughness. There's a lot to be said about sexism in this book as well, and the mental toughness that a woman such as Vasya has to have in order to deal with the struggles of men who want to call her a witch or a sorceress or evil or a demon or whatever it is, just because they are attracted to her and they feel like she might hold some sort of power over them because of the way that she holds herself, almost like they are challenged by her. And it's really interesting to see how she deals with that too. So next I have some badass moms, and they don't really start badass, but they get there. And that is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. This is a horror by Grady Hendrix. It's one of my favorite horrors of all time. And this is about a neighborhood. It's set in like the early 90s. We're talking like upper middle class suburbia. And these women are basically the classic early 90s housewives that are having to do their husband's bidding and keep the home, and but not ask too many questions. And they start a book club because they are, needing an outlet and friendship and independence of some sort. They create a book club and they start reading this true crime fiction. And then a vampire moves in down the street. So what would happen, right? So this vampire is threatening their children and they have to do something about it. So what would these women do? Okay, what would they do? And I found it so interesting. And I loved the discussions that were happening in here about society, about sexism, about female rage, about what a mom will do to protect her children. There was just so many interesting things talked about in here. Trigger warnings for gaslighting, trigger warnings. There's a word for it. I can't think of the freaking word for it. But basically, trigger warnings for, I think it's another word for gaslighting, but basically people not being believed for a situation. And this one is just, it's so freaking good. It's so good. If you want to read a horror that has some messages about society and sexism, that has something else to say. And I think a lot of people read into this and think, oh, it's one way, but they maybe don't understand fully the messages that were trying to be said in here. It also has a lot of messages about racism. This is set in the South in the early 90s, okay? So some of the things going on too are not right. But we're pointing it out that this is not right. And we're pointing out that the sexism is not right. We're pointing out that women not being appreciated, understood, or listened to is not right. I loved it. I loved this. And the women, the moms in here, man, they go through it. And there's also a real fear in here. I mean, women, in this situation, they didn't have much power. You can't upset your husband too much. Otherwise, I mean, you don't want him to divorce you, because then what would you do? The fear of losing your kids. There's just a lot in the dynamics in here. And it's very interesting to see. Some women might turn on each other, other women might support each other, and the different stages that some of these women go through in understanding the reality of their situation and understanding risk versus reward and how to deal with the situation. And like I said, how far a mom will go to protect her children. I adored this book. Serious, serious female badassery. And finally, I have a Why Choose Monster romance, where we have a very badass heroine who is kind of like, if you think about like some of the women in like The Walking Dead, we have this dystopian society and she has to go get medication and stuff and retrieve them from a pharmacy in an abandoned city to help the people in her community. But there are risks, because if monsters find her, she will be taken and then sold. In this society, monsters are in charge and humans are in fear of being enslaved by them. This book is by Katie May and Ann Denton, and I've read the first two. I'm waiting for the third book to come out. Looking forward to it. It is a super spicy Why Choose fantasy romance, and the monsters in here, they're not like your classic monsters. They're like general monsters. They're not an orc or like a demon or something like that. Like they're kind of, I don't know, monsters. They're described and explained, but kind of just like, if you think of like Monsters Inc., but not Monsters Inc., but like in terms of just all these different kinds of monsters that are all different, you know? And yeah, it's really cool because she is badass, and then she has to teach them to like let her be badass, because she has trained in combat to fight these monsters that have been attacking her community. And so she really, really knows how to fight and how to protect her loved ones. And she's pretty cool. She's a pretty badass heroine. Plus, this book is really steamy. There are some scenes in here that are like, what? Some weird stuff for sure, but some fun stuff too. I think it's a good time of year to start reading some monster romance. Get into it. Enjoy the monster romance vibes of fall. And I think it's kind of spooky. I think this whole series is a little bit spooky. We have like, I mean, a monster-controlled society. So definitely recommend. I think that ended up being 10 books with badass female main characters. Give me your recommendations down below in the comments. If you like this video, don't forget to click the like button and hit the subscribe button if you want more content from me. All my social media is linked down below in the description, including my Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as the link to The Hideaway, which I run with my good friend Maggie. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.